How much do the most expensive scenes in cinema history cost? What is the filming process like? And which movies were these scenes shot for? Find out all this and more in today's video. As always, you are on the Fade In channel. Today we're looking at the 10 most expensive scenes in cinema history, so it's going to be interesting and informative. Let's go! Vanilla Sky, a Hollywood remake of James Cameron's Open Your Eyes. Tom Cruise was able to captivate fans on intricate stories, making you doubt what you see. This statement fits perfectly with the scene in which Tom Cruise runs through an empty New York City, unaware of where all the people have gone. In order to film the scene, the director had to pay $1 million to close down Times Square, one of the world's most visited places, for approximately 3 hours on a Sunday morning, from 5 till 8, of course. The option of creating everything using computer graphics was available, but the director wanted this scene to look real and embody the themes of reality, illusion, and loneliness. According to the director, he was only granted permission on the condition that his preparations were flawless. During filming, the team took several shots, capturing the surreal silence of a big city. I always appreciate authenticity in films, so I'm completely impressed by this approach. However, spending $1 million on 30 seconds of film does not sound like a wise investment to an accountant. I Am Legend. Without a doubt, the cult classic I Am Legend is one of the films whose sequel fans have been eagerly awaiting. As you may recall, the film sees Will Smith trying to survive in a devastated New York City. It may seem that blocking streets and creating deserted landscapes cost the film the most. However, the opposite is true. The scene in which people are evacuated across the Brooklyn Bridge was one of the most complicated and expensive to film. Numerous permits were required, and a team of 250 people, thousands of extras, and 160 members of the National Guard were involved in the filming. The lighting of the real Brooklyn Bridge, construction of replica sections of the bridge, and other expenses increased the cost of this scene to around $5 million. However, some sources believe that this figure is much higher, given that Army helicopters and boats were also involved in filming. In any case, the scene looks spectacular and perfectly conveys the emotions of the crowd who want to escape at any cost. Superman Returns. In Bryan Singer's 2006 film of The Superman Returns, there is a scene in which the hero returns to Krypton, revealing his origins. Against the backdrop of space, Superman returns to his destroyed home, evoking feelings of nostalgia and longing. This scene cost $10 million to produce, and everything would have been fine if it had been included in the film. However, this did not happen. The scene was cut in post-production, making it one of the most expensive deleted scenes in cinema history. In fact, one more film could have been made for that money. As for the film itself, despite having a budget of $223 million, it only managed to gross just over $390 million, which was somewhat disappointing for DC. The sequel to Superman, starring Brandon Routh, was cancelled. While showing this deleted scene might not have improved the film's overall reception, fans and film critics still regard it as an extremely powerful and worthwhile part of the project. Saving Private Ryan. Some filmmakers forget that the opening scene must grab the audience's attention and hold it for almost 3 hours. Steven Spielberg, however, knows this rule very well. For his film Saving Private Ryan, he created one of the most spectacular and profound scenes in cinema, the D-Day landing. Unlike other directors of war films, Spielberg did not romanticize the war in this scene, but showed the cold reality and horror that American soldiers faced that day. However, filming this scene was not easy. The 25-minute Omaha Beach landing scene took 4 weeks to shoot and required a lot of time and creative energy from the actors. It also exhausted the budget, with replica props, visual effects, and explosives adding to the final cost. According to, the final cost of the scene was $12 million, making it one of the most expensive opening scenes ever. But I think it was worth it. Pearl Harbor. The morning of December 1941 changed the course of history forever. It was this morning that Michael Bay recreated in the most expensive scene of the film Pearl Harbor. The director, not yet drowning in Transformers computer graphics, decided to use only practical effects for the scene. To achieve this, the team prepared 700 explosive charges, used over 15,000 liters of petrol, and built life-size airplanes that literally fell into the water. Over 300 stuntmen took part in filming, and every movement of the planes and moment of the explosion was calculated to within a second to avoid casualties and ensure the effectiveness of the shot. The logistics of the shooting day were so complicated that pressing the wrong button could have ruined the shot and wasted thousands of dollars, but the result was impressive nonetheless. Each second of the scene cost around $83,000, bringing the total cost of creating the scene to approximately $12 million. Although the film was criticized for its historical inaccuracy upon release, its visuals are truly stunning. Titanic. James Cameron is the true expert at creating Hollywood blockbusters. He tries to get the most out of each of his films. This was certainly the case with the cult film Titanic, for which he set himself the ambitious goal of building a full-size replica of the Titanic. It was the latter that consumed a huge part of the budget. To recreate the sinking of the ship, the team built a separate stern section on a hydraulic platform that could be raised almost vertically. The massive water tanks, wave machines, and ship flooding systems also cost millions because every liter of water had to be precisely controlled in order to create the desired visual effects without endangering the actors or damaging the cameras filming the chaos. The technical choreography of the scene is fascinating. Hundreds of extras moved on a tilted deck that could have crushed them if the hydraulics had stopped or failed. James Cameron refused to rely solely on computer graphics for this movie because practical effects better conveyed the real horror. In this scene, real people fell into real water from real heights, and their reactions were realistic. However, authenticity came at a price. The estimated cost was $15 million. However, some sources cite a figure of $25 million. In 1997, this was a record because the total cost of the film was just over $1 million per minute. Nevertheless, when the film was released in cinemas, it became a huge box office hit. It grossed $2.26 billion worldwide, which must have made the accountants at 20th Century Fox and Paramount breathe a sigh of relief as the costs were fully recouped due to the film's phenomenal success. Speed 2. Cruise Control. Despite the success of the first Speed film, Keanu Reeves immediately rejected the idea of a sequel when he found out that it would feature a cruise ship instead of a bus, as cruise ships were not widely associated with speed at the time. However, the team decided not to stop production and, replacing Keanu with Jason Patric, began producing a film that is widely considered to be one of the 20 worst sequels in history. As you might expect, the entire film is set on a cruise ship, which crashes into the island of St. Martin at the end of the film without stopping. To make this footage look realistic, the team built a 300-ton, 50-meter-long ship's bow on rails, 300 meters long, 20 meters underwater. Around 35 buildings were constructed on land, which the liner destroyed. This scene cost almost $25 million, setting the record at the time as the most expensive stunt in cinema history. Unfortunately, this did not help the film, which failed at the box office. With a budget of $110 to $160 million, it only managed to earn $160 million, and it received 8 Golden Raspberry nominations, winning in the Worst Sequel category. It seems that there was a real boom in big ships in 1997. However, while one of them grossed billions, the other flopped at the box office. Spectre. The 24th film in the James Bond series spared no expense, featuring the expensive cars being destroyed on screen. 10 special Aston Martin DB10s were built for the film, each one handmade. Despite their cost, the film crew treated them like crash test cars, destroying them for just a few seconds of screen time. The scene in Rome is the most notable, of course, in which so many expensive cars were destroyed that they could have furnished an elite salon. Even prototypes of the Jaguar CX-75, costing millions of dollars each, were destroyed. The team also had to pay substantial compensation for damaging Rome's ancient streets, as well as fees for the filming location and street closures. In total, $37 million worth of cars were destroyed in the film, which will undoubtedly upset the Fast and Furious franchise and Luc Besson with Taxi. However, despite these expenses and the budget increasing to between $245 and $300 million, the film was a hit, grossing $887 million and allowing the team to create a sequel and sleep peacefully at night. The Matrix Reloaded. In this film, Morpheus offers Trinity some valuable advice. Stay off the highway. Had the Wachowskis listened to this advice, they could have saved a lot of money. Instead, they approached the film's producers and demanded that a real motorway be built so that it could be spectacularly destroyed. Had this scene been in the first film, they might have been flatly refused. However, after the wild success of the first film, the producers agreed to the scene. Preparation for filming began with the construction of a special highway at an abandoned military base in Alameda, California. Engineers built a 3-lane highway, nearly 2.5 kilometers long, with overpasses, exits, and realistic surface textures, costing the team $2.5 million. This was only the beginning though, as 300 stuntmen, 300 cars, and a large number of pyrotechnics experts were needed to perform all the stunts before filming could begin. Add to that the cost of post-production and insurance for the actors, and the total cost of the scene came to an astonishing $40 million. In addition to this scene, Neo's battle with a large number of Smith agents also cost the studio a considerable amount, as the team had to invent all of the special effects used in the scene. According to preliminary information, this cost an additional $40 million. However, considering that the film, with a budget of $150 million, went on to gross $742 million, these expenses seem entirely justified, as the film is a true masterpiece. Before we continue, don't forget to like and write in the comments which movie you would add to this list. Ben-Hur, winner of 11 Oscars and ranked 188th on IMDb's list of greatest films, Ben-Hur is considered one of the most iconic historical epics ever created. Shot in an era before CGI, pyrotechnics, or advanced special effects, the film relied on real skill and craftsmanship. To capture massive crowds, the filmmakers gathered 50,000 extras, and when a scene required a grand set, it was constructed entirely by hand rather than with a green screen. One of the most famous scenes in the film is the 9-minute chariot race. Due to the large-scale sets and the involvement of 15,000 extras, the cost of this scene in 1959 was $4 million, which, taking inflation into account, would be the equivalent of $44 million today. Yet even today, watching this scene, it's hard to believe it was filmed 66 years ago. It's more reminiscent of scenes from Gladiator 2000. There are many other expensive scenes in cinema. Consider the final scenes of The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and The Avengers, for example, which cost the filmmakers tens of millions of dollars. However, as there is no specific information about the cost of these scenes, I have not included them in this list. Who knows, maybe they will definitely be there next time. But we're not done yet, because I recently posted 2 fascinating videos on my channel. First, Van Damme's insane downfall, and second, the incredible twist in Fight Club. Click on the video to find out more. See you soon!